It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome to this week's edition of The Friday Show, presented by Cal Racing Cares. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. Happy New Year to you. Ray, since the calendar is flipping over, it's obviously the perfect time to talk about priorities for the racing industry in 2018. We did a poll. We asked people what their main concern was for the business, and the clear answer was integrity of the sport. We left it a little vague. We wanted to see how people might interpret that. And integrity is an interesting word because it has more than one definition. People usually go toward moral standards and conduct and honesty. But other definitions of integrity include the state of being whole and undivided, soundness. So what do you think our readers were saying by checking that box?
Well, if they're like me, probably both definitions would apply. Like any business or sport, you're going to have some dishonest characters. It's a small minority, people without high moral standards. But I think more importantly, when you think of integrity in terms of the structure of something, the integrity of a building, the integrity of a bridge, if you don't have integrity, the whole thing can collapse, weaken and collapse. And I think that's what people are concerned about with integrity more so than, again, any business or sport, especially when there's a lot of money involved, will have people that are not honest. Let's face it. It's a small percentage, but without the other integrity, the soundness and the cohesiveness, it's going to be hard to keep those people from ruining it for everybody else. And frankly, I think that's what's happened in a lot of ways.
I think the way the structure works now, if there really is a structure, it's just completely confusing to everyone. Every state has different regulations. The trainers, they complain about it because they don't want to ship into another state and not know what the rule is there. And then, the measurement is either, zero tolerance, or maybe you can have, 2 picograms of this or whatever. It would really behoove the industry. This is my answer for this. Simplify things. What is a catch in the NFL? No one knows anymore because they've made the rules too complicated and everyone's, up in arms about it. Look at what England has done with steroids. There are no steroids, period. If your horse tests positive for a steroid, they are done racing forever. That's a real simple rule. Look at the complicated case we had recently with Ron Ellis and masochistic. That wouldn't have happened if we had a very simple rule that says no steroids, period. And I think in order to make this happen, we need to have national oversight of some kind where the buck stops, and that's where the rules come from, and they are simple and understandable to everyone.
Yeah, the Ellis case, the masochistic case, is complicated, and it's complicated because instead of doing what you said, just make it simple. Racing said, well, we're going to phase the steroids out. Steroids, it wasn't that long ago. Remember Big Brown raced on steroids. There was no 30-day cutoff or 60-day cutoff. You could give steroids whenever you wanted to. So we've come a long way, but we just can't seem to get it out of the sport. I don't understand that. We don't need them. And the fact that you give horsemen, a steroid program to follow invites people to try to cut corners to get a little edge, and that just makes it look bad for everyone. Some states do a great job of regulating. Some states do a horrible job of regulating. I contend that the horrible states are hurting the best states. The weakest link, we're only as strong as the weakest link as a sport. And some of these states are not going to get better. And there's only one way to change the whole dynamics of this, and that is to create something that is national. And the only way that's going to happen, in my opinion, is not voluntary. It's through federal legislation.
Yeah, the structure that currently exists was created in a country that, is founded on states' rights, and I understand that. But it's kind of a day gone by in terms of the regulation in the horse racing industry because of the way horse racing grew, and each state had to have its own rules when they added horse racing to the mix. Today, though, it seems, you look at other sports, there's a national office, there's a commissioner. And I don't agree that it has to be federal legislation that makes this happen. I think it's tough to see evidence that shows the industry is ready to figure this thing out on its own. But we did see what the industry could do when it worked together and got these IRS regulations changed. They lobbied and they were cohesive, and there is a precedent for working together. And to make another point about the federal legislation that's currently in Congress that's just languishing there is the Horse Racing Integrity Act. It really doesn't. It's not comprehensive. It's about medication, and
right.
That definitely needs to be solved. Having an agency oversee it, like the United States Anti-Doping Agency, instead of this. We've got 23 medications you can use, but that doesn't solve the overall oversight problem for all the other things that racing needs to fix.
Yeah, if you look at the strongest racing programs around the world, they're the ones that have, a clear-cut national oversight. Hong Kong and Japan would be two examples. They control everything from the licensing to medication to racing schedules. And, we pride ourselves in states' rights. Racing has changed a lot over the last 30 years because of simulcasting, but one thing that hasn't changed is the structure of how it's being regulated. And it's not working in my opinion.
We have a poll question around this issue. To your point, Ray, can racing solve its integrity problems without federal legislation? Let us know what you think on the website, paulickreport.com. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Friday Show presented by Cal Racing Cares. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2018.